Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your friend Muhammad Anas studying in Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering. In this video, we are going to see about the digital communication in depth, analyze modulation techniques in digital broadcasting. Okay, first, what is modulation? It is a technique used in communication system to transfer the information by alternating a carrier waves. The process involves changing certain characteristics or phase in accordance with data signal. Here, data signal means message signal, means modulation means alternating the carrier signal respect to the message signal, means changing the amplitude frequency phase with the data signal or message signal. Okay. Next, the different types of modulation, analog modulation and digital modulation. In analog, we have amplitude modulation, frequency modulation, and phase modulation. In digital modulation, we have ASK, FSK, PSK, QAM. First, EAM. Analog modulation, amplitude modulation. Here, in amplitude modulation, the amplitude varies with proportional to the data signal or message signal. In the frequency modulation, the frequency of carrier wave is varied according to the data signal. Phase modulation means the phase of the carrier wave is modified by the digital signal. Next, the digital modulation ASK. ASK means amplitude shift key. The amplitude of carrier signal is changed based on digital data zeros and ones. Frequency shift key FSK. The frequency of carrier signal is altered based on the digital data. PSK, the phase of the carrier wave is shifted according to the digital data. In the QAM, it combines both AM, uh, amplitude, and phase modulation. Yeah, AM and PM allows for the higher data rates. Okay, here what is modulation technique? We have seen what is modulation, different types of modulation. Now we are going to see modulation techniques and its types. It is a method for converting data into electrical signal that can be transmitted. Means the signal which you are transferring it is converted to electrical signals and it has been transferred. Okay, in that types of amplitude modulation, frequency modulation, phase modulation, ASK, FSK, PSK, and QAM. First, AM amplitude modulation, a technique that commonly used to transfer messages using radio carriers. In the frequency FM, a technique that changes carrier wave frequency based on modulating signal. In PM, a technique that encodes a signal by varying the phase of the carrier wave. ASK means a digital modulation technique that varies the amplitude of a carrier wave based on the digital modulation signal. Okay. Now, PSK. PSK means phase shift key, as you know. It is a modulation technique that shifts phase of the carrier wave between different phase value to represent binary value or bit sequence. In QAM, a modulation technique that commonly used to modulate data signals onto a carrier for radio communications. Okay. In FSK, a digital modulation technique that changes the carrier frequency characteristics of the transfer information by using the baseband digital signal discrete values. Now, your modulation system here, it is a modulation flow system. Here, source is proportional to destination, where the source is connected to source encoder. Uh, Source encoder is connected to channel encoder. Channel encoder is connected to modulator. It modulates the signal and the channel is connected. And that channel gives back the demodulator and the signal is sent to the channel decoder and the decoder is sent to the source decoder and the destination is formed where the source is proportional to destination A source encoder is proportional to source decoder. Channel encoder is proportional to channel decoder. Modulation and demodulation. How can we analyze the modulation technique? To There are several steps. Okay, by step by step, we can see how we can analyze the modulation technique. To analyze the modulation technique used in digital communication, we need to understand the key characteristics of digital modulation schemes, their performance metrics, and how they interact with the communication channel. Here are the steps by step guide on how to perform the analysis. Okay, first, identify the modulation technique. Means we have to identify which modulation technique we are going to use for the message signal, for the carrier signal to be transferred. Okay, in digital communication techniques typically used in communication system includes ASK, FSK, PSK, BPSK, QPSK. As I told you, to vary the amplitude, ASK is used. ASK is used for amplitude varies based on the digital data. FSK frequency varies according to the digital data, and PSK as the phase of the carrier signal changes with the data. Here BPSK uses two distinct phases 0 degree and 180 degree. Here QPSK use distinct phases such as 0 degree, 90, 180, 270. Here the QAM works as combination amplitude and phase changes to convey more data bits per symbol. Okay. In the second step, analyze signal characteristics. In the first step, what we have done, which technique, identify the technique which we are going to use. Second one, analyze the characteristics. Okay. For each modulation scheme, analyze the following signal characteristics. First, waveforms analysis. How we can analyze the waveform means examine the time domain and frequency domain relationship of the signal. Use tools like oscilloscopes, spectrum analysis, or software like MATLAB or visualization. Okay. Constellation diagram. Plot the signal points in the IQ in phase and the quadrate plane. This helps in visualizing the modulation scheme. Okay. The BPSK, QPSK, and 16 QAM. BPSK means 2 points along the y-axis. QPSK means 4 points is separated by 90 degrees. 16 QAM means 16 points with different amplitude and phase combinations. Here, how we can measure the performance metrics. Okay, evaluate the modulation technique based on several key metrics. First one, bit error rate (BER), the probability of bit being incorrectly received. It's a critical metric for assigning reliability. BER versus SNR is often used to compare different modulation schemes. Spectral efficiency means the number of bits transferred per second per hertz of bandwidth. Okay, you have to remember the BPS by HS. Okay, higher order modulation like QAM have better spectral efficiency. Third one, power efficiency. The required transmit power to achieve a critical BER modulation like BPSK are power efficiency but have lower spectral efficiency. Channel analysis means consider the effects of the communication channel. First, AWGN pairing interface. Commonly, AWGN is used to model noise in communication system, evaluate the modulation performance under AWGN. Padding means analyze how the modulation scheme performs in padding channels. Interface means assist against interference, especially in crowded frequency band. Simulation and testing. Use simulation tools like MATLAB, Samlink, or Python, using like NumPy and SciPy. 2. Generate the modulation signal for different schemes. Introduce noise and interference to test the signals. measure and plot the BER versus SNR curves for comparison. Sixth, compare modulation technique. How can we compare? Summarize the analyze by comparing the modulation technique. Okay, based on first modulation type, fractal efficiency, power efficiency, complexity, type use cases. For BPSK, it is a low in SE, high in PE, low in complexity. It is used in satellite and Wi-Fi. QPSK, it is a medium in SE and it also medium in PE. In it also medium in complexity. It is used in cellular or Wi-Fi. 16 QAM, it is high in SE, low power efficiency, high complexity, high data speed. It's a very high data speed. Okay. FSK, it have low spectral efficiency, medium power efficiency, low complexity, and it is used in radio or IoT. Okay. Uh, Experiment with real-time data. 7.1. If you have access to communication system, use a software-defined radio (DSDR) or the communication analyzer to capture real-world signals and analyze the modulation used. By following these steps, we can effectively analyze and evaluate the digital signal modulation technique used in communication. By using all these steps, we can analyze the different digital modulation techniques used in communication system. Thank you for watching my video. Please like and subscribe.